Alright, so this is a really old serial killer story that actually happened in the Knoxville area between 1919 and 1926. And it was called the Night Marauder Murders. Back then they used marauder as kind of a person that went around at night sneaking in robbery and doing things. And this particular serial killer actually killed people and was mainly just trying to take the women and get with the women, and it didn't matter whether they were married or not. He'd kill the husband, and then he'd say, he's going to have his way with them, and then hold them with a gun and, a flashlight and come through the window. It just seemed to be, almost like 40 cases similar to these that happened in Knoxville and Maryville, Tennessee, back in, again, 1919 to 1926. And you can see more about the story if you look up Nancy Lachlan Sofer. She's a professor at Maryville College. She's done a whole project on this thing. You can find out a lot more about it. I mainly read through the Knoxville News Sentinel, and that's where I got a lot of my information. It's really, really crazy. But, again, this the typical things this person had. It was all at night. They were after women. They had a flashlight and a gun and usually went through the windows. And usually did it at a house that was small with a couple rooms. So they had three suspects during this time because they did send out a lot of extra police and people trying to find this guy. And, one of the first, they had was Robert Luther Jones. But he was kind of suffering from some shell shock from he'd been in the army in Siberia and had some issues with the army, and he may have done some robberies, but it was found out later he wasn't a murderer. He'd been out at night, maybe doing robberies. The other guy was named John Honeycutt. Now this guy had actually shot and did not kill, but almost killed a Captain Schneider of the police department, and they finally caught him. And then it was trying to say maybe he was the one, but the guy actually died in jail mysteriously. So, it couldn't have been him. Then another guy, Morris Mays, down in Knoxville. They had the chiefs and the police, they just had it after this guy. He's kind of had a business and was real successful, and they just kind of had it in with them for some reason politically. And there was a Bertie Lindsay, a lady was killed, and the witnesses said that they saw a person that looked like Morris Mays, and they didn't really actually have a lot of proof. It really wasn't a great case, but somehow they convicted him of that and killed him in an electric chair in 1919. And as a result of probably a lot of this, there was a riot called the Red Summer uh, of 1919 down in Knoxville. They had a big riot, and there was, allegedly maybe 30 to 100 people killed because they had machine guns down there. People went to go get Morris in jail, but he wasn't there. But they found all the whiskey, and they brought out, and they all got drunk on the blocks of Vine Street down Knoxville, and they started shooting everything. And National Guard came in there and trying to sit them down, setting up machine guns, and it's just a really big deal. And when they finally got done, they think a lot of people were killed, but they don't really know honestly what happened there. But it's a big thing that happened because of that. But the biggest one I'd have to say is William Daniel Sheffy. Sheffy. He was actually tried for these type of murders 3 different times, and 3 times he didn't get convicted. Now this guy, he originally had in 1950, before all this happened, been convicted of a murder of Doris Davis in Seymour, Tennessee. And when the hound dogs went up there to go to her house after, again, somebody had a flashlight, a gun, and got in the wind and shot her through the window. Uh, the hounds led back to Sheffney's house, and he got arrested, but he was never convicted. Even though he said he was trying to date Dora, and the father said, no, you can't do it, and he got mad about that, so they think that's why he might have been a suspect. It's kind of crazy, too, that, even though he had a gun with him at his house, but he'd borrowed that from her dad. That's kind of crazy that even happened, but that's what happened. But they couldn't prove that was the one that shot her, so he didn't get that one either. And he also joined the military, or in World War One. It was like a Corps medic. He went over there. Of course, there was no murders really recorded during that time up to 1919 till he actually came back from the military. Then he moved to Maryville, Tennessee, is where he lived. He actually lived down in Maryville, Tennessee, in the kind of near the college, called College Hill Road or College Hill area down there. And there was a lot of murders in Maryville, and there was a lot of murders in Knoxville. So they were always trying to figure out, how can this guy, how can we get him? I mean, they were watching him. They were doing everything they could do. And, he even stayed at a motel down in Knoxville. He would drive a train evidently, travel a train from Maryville, or a car. He had a car he with his buddy he had that they were paying for. So he had a part ownership in a car back then, and rode the train and stayed at the Atkin Motel down in Knoxville, Tennessee. This is down at the corner of Depot and Gay Street. It's Regas now. It's the Regas Motel now. And a lot of times they said he didn't even have anything with him, like he didn't bring clothes or anything, but he stayed on. If you kind of look at a map of that, that's kind of the center of where all these accidents happen. But as you also plotted, as somebody had plotted on a map, and said that, these were possibly all kind of around the trolley track they had back then. They had a trolley track system down in Knoxville that went down, Gay Street and Broad Street and all these other streets. And if they plotted a lot of these murders and break-ins and where these things happened, they said, okay, a lot of these happened along that. So they could have been riding the trolley to get to these places, which is really creepy that all this happened. And this, again, this was in the papers all the time about, Chefney and killers, and somebody got killed again, and an old lady finally got killed back, 1926. And it's like, oh my gosh, where is all this stuff coming from? Is it really this guy? So Chefney actually, ended up moving to, and his family, California. So he moved out to California, and strangely enough, after he moved California in 1926, all these types of murders stopped, believe it or not. But, let's go check it out. I rode down the road and tried to find some of these areas where historically it used to be. Check it out. Very creepy. So here I am on a hunt for the old trolley, not say track areas, that used to be down here in the 30s and 20s of Knoxville, Tennessee. And more importantly for this story is where apparently William Daniel Sheffey, who was allegedly the suspect for what they call the Night Marauder murders that they had back in the 1919 to 1926, and it's suspected that, or he actually did take trains, and here's Church Street, so we had trolley going down this road that we're driving, and the one would be going down to Church Street. And he lived in Maryville, Tennessee, but you could get a short train trip to Knoxville and then catch the trolley and go around. And the reason why they think he might have
been on the trolley, or whoever the Night Murderer, you might say, was, because a lot of the murders, you can kind of watch them, they map out along all the spurs and along the routes of the actual train track trolleys. And I definitely know those were in here, because when they redid the streetscapes on this road, and I did the survey on it, we had to dig them out when they redid the roads. They weren't here for sure. And Clinch would have been another one there. And moving on up the road, because this is where the main line would have been. But let's go check out some of the areas that may be left of some of the routes which have been done away with. The roads have been done away with because of the new development in the interstate. But we'll try to go to some of the neighborhood on the way down. Alright, so now we're down in the, what they call the old Bowery. I could say that, right? Bowery. Which is kind of the old Knoxville town. This place is rumored to be extremely haunted, but one of the biggest haunted buildings, you might say. There's this one right up here. It's called the Lonesome Dove Western Bistro now. That used to be a club a long time ago, that, and even they might say a prostitution house many years ago. A lot of gunfights there, a lot of history there. Even Wild Bill Hickok, or whatever his name was there. Kind of cool. So right up here is Magnolia, and this was a big trolley track route. Maybe going down this way. Of course, you can see it's been redone since. That place right there, I think, always haunted. That salvage, railroad salvage, old junk in that place, man. Very cool place to go hunt for stuff. There's a lot of old pictures and junk up in the attics of that thing. Now we're on the Magnolia, which is one of the trolley tracks routes. But you know, a lot has changed since the 1920s. Probably had houses down through here. So this would have been one of the routes that somebody took, or might have took, that left a lot of break-ins. The guy was a rapist, and he didn't really care whether there was somebody there or not. Like the husband, he'd shoot them too. And just, you know, these continue to happen for a long time down in the Knoxville area and Maryville, Tennessee. Hopefully we can see some of the old houses that might have been around here back in the 30s. If there's any left, that would have been. The houses where some of the murders were. I don't know exactly where it was. I just know it was on this road here. You know, all these were kind of around the downtown area, close to the trolley tracks routes. But this here would have been typical housing and what was there back in, I would say back in the 20s. Definitely looks like it hasn't changed much here. And, you know, there was break-ins around here. Supposedly the Night Marauder. Night Marauder. This is it. At least one area that's left. Washington Avenue. Squirrel, you better make up your mind there. Yeah, there's an old house right there, man. Oh, that's an old church. Goes down. It would have been somewhere out this way, and then it ended up stopping somewhere down here, so it didn't go all the way down the end of the road. It ended up cutting down here somewhere. Cool. So here we are at Gay Street and Depot, and on the left here is where Atkins Hotel used to be, where, you know, a lot of times he stayed there, but now it is not. It's Regas on the left here, this big building on the left, would have been where he actually stayed. And a lot of times he didn't even bring anything, he didn't bring any clothes, they just couldn't figure that out, but he did stay at a motel that was on this corner right here. Little kid over there getting across there. Hey kid. And that's where he stayed, right there on that corner. Where it used to be. Head on in. Alright, sorry about the tires, they're a little loud, but here we are coming into Maryville, Tennessee. And this was the last place that William Daniel Sheffey, the marauder, alleged marauder, murderer, midnight marauder, murderer was, or lived. And this is where the story is really based around this town, this city here in the, you know, the foothills of the Smoky Mountains. From 1919 to 1926, this was pretty much a scary place to live. Particularly if you were a married woman, because that's who he often, you know, that's what he went after, was women. It didn't matter whether you were married or not. He would shoot the husband and then have his way with the wife or whatever, and then oftentimes he would shoot and kill her, or if he broke in and it was going bad, he'd just shoot whoever was in the window or whatever have you. Now, again, this guy had several trials and went through several accusations. It seemed like it was in the paper almost every other week for all these years. You know, that's about 7 years. But this is all where it happened here, starting now. Now, there was, you know, he did go to Knoxville a lot, and there's assumed that there was murders in Knoxville as well that he actually did. So he seemed like he's all around. In some estimates, they think possibly if it could have been accredited for 40 murders, and of course there's no proof of that necessarily, but that check out some of the areas where this might have been. There's not a lot of information on where exactly this happens. I got some information where he used to live. So check it out. Cool looking church. But anyway, this is as close as I can find to what they call College Hill area. And this is typical housing, probably back older area in the 20s. So this is College Hill Road right here, College Hill section. This goes into Maryville College. But you can see right here, this is somewhere he lived, not on the campus, but it probably wasn't this big back then. There might have been houses around here. This is it, College Hill Drive. We're on College Hill Drive right now, so this is the closest I can get, but I bet if I go down across the road here, we can see the neighborhood possibly where he used to live, and this is kind of the area where a lot of the break-ins and murders happen, actually close to around this area. You can see some of the older houses. Well, that one looks like an apartment, probably a college. Yeah, these might have been around like the 1930s. Houses are quite big, actually. Somewhere around in here, but he wouldn't often pick a big house. He had this kind of signature. Oh, somebody changed their tire there. Picking a small house that he knew he could kind of get in, get out quick, and didn't have electricity. And there's the old graveyard right there. College Hill Park. Yeah, this is it. This is the area where he lived. There's College Hill Park back there. And there's College Hill Park. And started the whole thing and kept everybody in horror for 7 years. And so the dude never got prosecuted. He always got off somehow and ended up moving to California. Yeah, it was down streets like this in the old neighborhood. Houses like that, a little house like that would be like the one he would pick. We can go down to Mountain View Road here and see what we can see down here. And this is more areas that possibly some of the murders happened. Again, they didn't give details, exactly addresses where it happened, but it was in this area closer to where he lived. Very creepy. Very creepy. This is it. There's a dog right there. And these are probably houses that were around back in that day. And I'm pretty much lost. How about that? That's the type of house right there that he would break in. A little house like that right there. Get in and out quick and no electricity. So these are kind of typical of the houses that the break-ins were done in.